Welcome back to the D4 channel, and today we'll be doing the spoiler review of Andor Episode 7. So if you haven't seen Andor Episode 7, leave now because we'll be discussing spoilers.
There's a good chance they'll miss what I'm really doing.
What are you really doing?
Okay, so after coming off Episode 6, The Eye, which is a very dynamic, action-packed episode, we're now back to a very slow-paced type of episode, the beginning of a new arc. And I have to say, honestly, Episode 7, in my humble opinion, is better than Episode 6. The entire dialogue of the political tensions between Mon Mothma and the other senators at her party. We finally get a mention of Palpatine. He's clearly heard the news about the robbery on Aldhani, and he is not pleased about it. The ISB, oh my god, I just had to say the ISB moment. They shot a certain Imperial, because in filming you could kind of tell when they're about to reveal something important, especially to fans such as myself who has watched everything in Star Wars. And the way they shot this scene with this new ISB, I guess, head guy speaking to the entire ISB, staff. My curiosity was like, this couldn't be Admiral Yularen, could it? So the guy looks different because obviously that they cast him, they couldn't get the guy who played him in Episode 4: A New Hope, and it's not exactly the same voice actor from the Clone Wars, but it is Yularen. And to make sure, I had to rewind and then put the captions on because the captions will say the name of the person speaking, and it was Admiral Yularen. He was finally there in the ISB, basically giving them the speech about what everything has been happening, how Palpatine, he spoke to Palpatine himself, and this is not going to slide. The Imperial strongholds along the galaxy are going to tighten because clearly not only did Cassian's robbery and Aldhani spur that, but also everything that we know that's going on at this point. We know Ezra and Kanan and the Ghost crew are doing their things. We know Saw Gerrera and his partisans are doing their things. So there's pockets of rebellion really doing things to hurt the Empire, and the ISB is trying to lock down on these pockets of resistance. And I love the scene with I think her name is Deidre, but I hear some people call her Mira in the show. I'm gonna call her Deidre. Deidre, the main ISB agent woman. She's arguing with the other guy who's trying to take her basically her post and everything against what she's telling the entire ISB security. Like, this is happening. We have to stomp it out. It's not just random occurrence of rebellion. These have meaning. And the old guy that we've seen giving the speech to what the ISB does basically sides with her and says, yes, you are correct, and to watch her back, because obviously we know not only the dark side but also the Empire are very prone to stabbing each other in the back. But finally, they have listened to her, and I think they're taking more precautions. So that is very exciting. We get more of Cyril. Cyril gets a new job, basically a boring desk job, and he doesn't seem very happy with it. I don't exactly know what the job entails. It was kind of, Star Wars mumbo jumbo, something about security or keep an eye on something, but we know that this is going to build up probably to Cyril somehow meeting the Imperial Security Bureau woman and them teaming up to stop Cassian, because he's heard the robbery on Aldhani, and he kind of gets a feeling, I don't think he knows it's Cassian that did it, but he knows that stuff is happening and that he's trying to clear his name, and get back into the fight. But also, we follow Cassian Andor, after the robbery. He goes to what I call the Miami of Star Wars. It literally looked like Miami Beach. It had the palm trees and everything. Well, let me reverse it a little bit. He goes back to Ferrix to basically get Marva, his adopted mother, to leave with him with his newfound, wealth. And she refuses to. And that speech they have together about how she's tired of running. She's tired of, of not fighting the Empire, and she's going to stay even though Cassian says we must go. And that whole flashback they had of back when his father Clem tried to stop Ferrix from throwing stones at what we know is Imperial clone troopers. I don't know if they fired on him, but they definitely hanged him, and that was basically Marva's last straw in the Empire, and she's going to stand in the fight. And that conversation they have, Oh my god, the writing in this show is so brilliant. I was glued to every word they were saying. It was amazing. He goes back to, Bix. Bix basically tells him you gotta get out of here. She tells him that Tim's the one who sold them out and he can't stay here. So that's when he goes to what I call the Miami Beach in Star Wars, where he's just relaxing. He's basically taking his early retirement, and obviously we see hooligans, maybe part of the rebellion, getting chased by shore troopers, and Cassian just minds his own business. But of course, because he know what he did on Donnie, and that because he is a very suspicious character, he naturally gets worried, and one of the stormtroopers stops him and basically accuses him of being part of the rebellion, and he's getting sentenced 6 years in prison for interrupting the peace, pretty much, which was absolutely crazy. But I love that whole thing. We get a lot of mentions of Palpatine in this show. Mon Mothma in the dinner scene with her childhood friend from Shangela, they mentioned Palpatine is not going to take this lion down, and this is the person we've kind of suspected. She says we might have an extra person to trust. Now I don't know whether this dinner scene is before what she said, I believe in episode, what was it, episode 4 or 5, or this was after everything on Donnie. But clearly there's some past relationship drama between her and her friend. I think they were romantic at one point. That's the feeling that I got. And he seems very trustworthy because he says his political taste might be too strong for Mon Mothma. And then Mon Mothma basically gives a whole speech about how if no one knows what she's doing, they just think that she's an irritation and that she's really doing something really important to hurt the Empire. She tells him a little bit, but not the whole thing. And basically, she's trying to get access to her funds back home because now they're definitely heavily monitoring Mon Mothma and other Imperial senators that might be in league with funding this new resistance against their empire. But man, everything in this episode was fantastic. Obviously, not a lot of action based on how they're going with these whole arc things, but that did not matter because everything in that episode was absolutely brilliant. It moved the plot along very greatly for each of the characters. We get to see, I can't remember her name, but the woman that was part of the Heist on Donnie, she came back basically given the mission to assassinate Andor because he knows a little bit too much, which I think is unfair. And obviously, we know that assassination won't come true because, again, he survives until Rogue One. But it's going to be very curious to see how their relationship goes forward and whether she goes through with assassinating Andor or she fails and she gets killed by him. That would be very curious to see in episode 8. But tell the D4 channel what you thought of this episode in the comments below. I personally give this episode a 10 out of 10. I think it was a brilliant episode, and I can't wait to see episode 8. But yeah, tell us what you think about the episode in the comments below. Again, like and subscribe to the D4 channel for all your Star Wars update and news and everything Star Wars that you love. From me to my counterpart D4, Beanie Daniel Edward, may the Force be with you.